Time now for our press review. Time to say hello to Alison Sargent. Hi, Alison.
Hi, Chris.
Starting off with Trump perhaps finally relenting.
That's right, Chris. Although this is not a concession, but he has given the green light for the transition to start. Many cartoonists are seeing this as him sort of throwing in the towel, despite Donald Trump vowing to go on fighting. You can see here the Algerian cartoonist. He shows Donald Trump as a lonesome cowboy riding off into the sunset with his trusty golf cart. Meanwhile, another cartoonist, Mike Lukovich of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, depicts him as the Grinch that tried to steal the U.S. election, an effort you can see he's decided to abandon after it was a bit hard to fit it through the door. Now, papers are also reacting to Joe Biden's anticipated cabinet picks. Lots of attention being paid to the historic nature of some of these appointments. We read in the New York Times that they include Janet Yellen as the first female Treasury Secretary. You probably recognize her. She was already the first woman to lead the U.S. Federal Reserve. The New York Times also headlining on the fact that Cuban-born Alejandro Mayorkas will be the first Latino to head the Department of Homeland Security. Now, the conservative Wall Street Journal expresses their frustration with what they call identity politics, naming the first woman, the first Latino, etc. The paper notes in its editorial that many of these picks are veterans of the Obama administration, and the paper writes, that means they'll know how to run a government, though we hope that he plans better than a restoration of the status quo pre-Donald Trump.
Talking of Donald Trump's legacy, Alison, part of it, of course, was a normalization between Israel and a handful of Arab states. And meanwhile, we've seen a secret meeting between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
That's right, Chris. The secret meeting reportedly took place on Sunday in Saudi Arabia between Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who is currently on his farewell tour. As we read on the front page of Saudi paper Arab News, Saudi officials deny that any Israelis attended the meeting. That's despite reports, including one from the Wall Street Journal, that cites Saudi government advisors as saying that this meeting did take place. Now, Lebanese paper L'Orient Le Jour writes that this leak puts normalization of Israeli-Saudi ties back in the spotlight. The paper writes that closer ties with Israel could help the Crown Prince win points with the U.S. Congress, reminding them that Saudi Arabia is an important partner when it comes to containing Iran. Still, it remains a very sensitive subject in Saudi Arabia and the rest of the region. The Saudi king, Salman, continues to fervently oppose ties with Israel. In that vein, there's an analysis piece from The Guardian that suggests that Saudi Arabia may be rethinking their plans to get closer to Israel now that Trump is sort of on his way out of office. The paper writes, unless Trump can conjure up a way to offer rewards that would be safeguarded when he leaves the White House, well, Prince Mohammed may decide not to play his hand for now.
Okay, next up, you've got the Daily Telegraph in the United Kingdom celebrating the vaccine breakthrough at Oxford University, and a little bit of mathematical confusion over this.
Yeah, no, some confusion maybe from people that that they announced that the vaccine was first 62% effective, then 90% effective. Well, that's because it depends on the dose that patients take. If patients take a half dose followed by a full dose, then it's 90% effective. And that's actually, interestingly, something that the scientists doing this study for making this vaccine came up with by accident. The Daily Telegraph explains that scientists accidentally gave some trial participants just a half dose to begin with. Then they realized that and gave them an extra full dose as a boost. That group ended up having the vaccine be 90% more effective compared to 62% effective for the group that only had the one correct dose, which sort of serves as a reminder that some of the best discoveries are accidents.
Absolutely. From the Oxford vaccine to the Oxford English Dictionary, which has chosen a host of words of the year this year.
That's right, Chris. That's because 2020 turns out to have been a year that's left everyone speechless, even the folks at the Oxford English Dictionary. That's literally how they explained their choice of not one, but multiple words for an unprecedented year. They include words like coronavirus, lockdown, pandemic, our number, of course, but also words like mail-in after the U.S. election, and then Black Lives Matter and BLM after the unprecedented protests for racial justice. The dictionary's president called 2020 a year which cannot be neatly accommodated in one single word.
And finally, on a slightly lighter note, back here in France, an article from The Guardian as Emmanuel Macron prepares to address the nation on the COVID crisis this evening. The rules here are very strict in terms of when you're allowed to go out during a lockdown. You technically, either on your phone or a bit of paper, have to be able to show things to the police saying that you're going shopping or you're exercising, various other reasons. This story in The Guardian has a different take on that from one man in Brittany.
That's right. This man in Brittany, Chris, did fill out that
complicated
form you're saying. Yeah, he filled out the form, but he wrote in as one of the options that he had to go out to smash someone's face in. Not considered a legitimate reason by French police.
Can't believe they didn't put that on the list.
I know, right? But that doesn't count. Yeah, they didn't buy it. They gave him the €135 fine for having an insufficient excuse for being in public. They also gave him a €150 fine for being drunk in public, which might maybe explain why he gave such a strange excuse. That was sort of his mental state at the time. Anyway, I do think it's admirable that he not only went to the trouble of filling out the form, but he was also so honest about it. And I think, maybe he should get some credit at least for that.
Apparently he got caught with a flick knife on him as well. Alison, thank you very much. That was our press review. That's it from me. Do stay with us here on France 24. Coming up is today's Focus report, which looks at the alleged use of banned weapons during the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh.